What I just did was roll that landscape fabric. I'll zoom in. But that is four, I think 48 inch or 3-foot rolls, 4 3-foot rolls of landscape fabric that I put down on top of that blue plastic tarp from Home Depot, Walmart, Harbor Freight, wherever I got it. And I did all that about 5-6 years ago because of the non-compliance of the lot as far as drainage profile, drainage signature of the lot. It didn't match the community documents. The master document, master control document, states on the front of it that every elevation on the master control document has to be adhered to. You cannot tamper with the elevation. The elevation on the right, the house on the right, this house is 3 inches lower than that house. Permitted by Buckeye. But on the master control document, the standalone legal document that states the elevation written in stone for this house, it says that house on the master document is supposed to be 3 inches higher than it is. But it was permitted. It was applied for by the contractor and permitted by the bureaucrats in Buckeye at the time, 16 years ago. They were permitted to drop this elevation 3 inches. And it has caused a multitude of problems for me. Any of my neighbors, go and ask any of my neighbors or any of the golfers that's been playing here for the last few years. I'm always out here tweaking, tampering, working on this yard because I have been handicapped by lowering that foundation or that pad 3 inches. It just handicapped all the drainage. First of all, the sewer pipes that I pay a fee to the city of Buckeye for my sewer, those sewer pipes were permitted by the town of Buckeye 16 years ago to be built out of compliance. When you lower the foundation or the pad, you lower the sewer pipes. You start tampering with the geometry that delivers the effluent to the curb. Wherever that sewer pipe is that goes down the middle of the street, you are not compliant with it anymore. As soon as you go below the elevation that's stated on the master control document, you have now tampered with the geometry of the sewer pipes and also the external drainage of the house, because the house is now sitting in a depression. It's surrounded by a depression where water just, I've been fighting this now for years. I bought these houses after I ordered them. They were built to my specs. I was one of the first ones in this neighborhood, and one of the first, this was the first or second pad that was laid. The first and second pad that was laid was lot 317 and lot 316. They were laid at the same time, and both of them are out of compliance with the standalone legal document. 317 is 2 inches below the standalone legal document. And this house, 316, is 3 inches below the standalone legal document, the control document for the community. But every time I go into the downtown, into the second floor of engineering downtown, nobody will speak to me. Nobody at the HOA will discuss this with me, because as soon as they hear it, they're going to have to be obligated to it. Nobody will listen to me about this. I'm kicked out of the HOA. But to continue, what I'm going to do, my goal, if I'm left alone by the HOA and the architectural committee, it's summer. All your snowbirds that go home, there's little impact, but I have to go in there. I'm going to roll that blue tarp back after it's going to be pulled back. Everything's going to be rolled back, and I have to get in there and sculpt a drain with sand. I have to get in there with levels. I have to pick a low spot, a high spot. I have to sculpt where I can get the water efficiently, cleanly, quickly away from the houses. From the pipe, that white pipe, all the way to the curb has all been reworked to at least 6 feet from the house. I had to haul in sand and tamp it down and use levels to get that water to migrate away from the house. You have to understand, that house is 3 inches lower than that house. It isn't supposed to be. They're supposed to be equal. So that means the height of that house, when this one's 3 inches lower, all the water migrated over to here and sat around the pad like a moat, a lake. Every time we had a monsoon, if we had 2 or 3 days of rain in a row, on the third day after the ground got so soaked it couldn't hold anymore, I would have a moat around my house. It would be more or less dry over there. The lake would be all up against the foundation. Everything against the pad, because they had a big gap between the stucco and the ground. I filled that gap up with sand, and with levels I got the water to run into the middle and toward the curb. So from around where that line is that I first started talking about, from right where that line is to the curb has all been sculpted by me and covered with plastic, and now the water doesn't sit against the house. It comes off the house. And if you look, another thing that was required because of the signature, the drainage signature of the house, I can't get the water away from the house. I had to get, if you see the gutters, I'm probably one of the only houses in the neighborhood that's got gutters, and the reason I have to have gutters is because they tampered with the drainage package that I bought. They weren't allowed to. On the front of the grading map, on the front of the grading map, the grading document for all the grading, it's got every house elevation. The elevation of that house was figured out by the engineers far away. They had the height of the sewer pipe going down the street, and to keep the house and to keep everything equal. And when they got to the end of Twilight Trail and 233rd, they made the 3 houses on the one side of the ditch all equal to 3 houses on the west side of the ditch. So on the east side and west side of Tract A, on the master document, all those houses, all 6, are supposed to have the same finished floor elevation. They don't. 317 was lowered 2 inches, and the pad was laid. This house right there was lowered 3 inches, and they laid the pad. Nobody told me. When they got the permit, the day that the permit was signed by a bureaucrat in downtown Buckeye, the builder had $30,000 of my money. I had given him a $2,000 earnest money on December 7th, 2003. Around New Year's of 2004, when right at New Year's time, I gave him another $28,000. And about a week or 2 later, that's when they went into downtown Buckeye and lowered, against the instructions, against the dictates, against the mandate of the master control document, the blueprint for the neighborhood. This house is out of compliance. It has a cloud on its title. I haven't been able to sell it. No realtor from Buckeye will list it. All the realtors that come in that are literally, they're pure as the driven snow, when you start telling them what happened with this house and you show them the documents and they understand what took place, they don't want to go near it. Unless I put in the disclosure, I don't mention it in the disclosure, they'll list the house. But if I want to talk about and put documents in with the listing that prove that this house was tampered with as far as the sewer pipes, the finished floor elevation, and exterior lot drainage to the street and onto the golf course. It all got tampered with. No local realtor will talk to me. As soon as they understand that I am not going to turn this over to a new buyer until that new buyer understands exactly what he's buying. And I want that new buyer to understand that for years now, I've been tampering and trying to improve. I put this plastic in, and when I ordered rock last year, a 3-ton of rock, I swear to God it was 1 ton of rock, 1 ton of pea pebbles, and a ton of sand. So all that rock right there that I covered everything up with 5 years ago is going to be reworked. And I'll tell you how. What you're looking at right now is a sifter. Okay? That's a sifter I built to fit on top of a Lowe's wheelbarrow. It fits like a glove on top. And you have two screens, one sitting on the top, but both of them have rollerblade wheels on a frame with one is a 1/4 inch mesh, the other is 1/2 inch. And all this rock that I'm excavating out of here, I have to excavate all this rock out of here. Last year, when about this time last year or last spring, when I ordered that 3-ton of rock, the guy just dumped it right in the middle of the street. It took up, people had to go around it. It's lucky the car could go by it. I've had rock delivered before. It isn't the first time, and usually they'll string it along the sidewalk. Not this guy. He just opened up and dumped it. So I had to get off the street, and I started putting it, overlaying everything. While I was overlaying the rock, the good rock that I had worked with 4 years ago, just to get it off the street, I was broadcasting it everywhere, and it's filled with sand. That's why I have to take this whatever rock top cover that's here, right here. I'm going to pull all that away from the wall so I can resculpt that. I'm going to pull all this away from the wall, resculpt that. I want to make a nice, definite linear trough from there to a drainage pipe that I had to install. Right underneath that wheelbarrow, there's a drainage pipe that runs out to underneath the lighthouse. Where you see that cannon with the light and the lighthouse to the left, that's where a 4-inch pipe that starts underneath that wheelbarrow runs. And I had to install that. That's another thing. I've had to work so much on this lot. It's taken so much of my time and my equity. I've spent hundreds and hundreds of dollars on top cover, tarps, landscape fabric, PVC pipe, you name it. It never ends. Tooling. I've had to rent jackhammers to bust through the caliche soil to get the drainage pipes in. It never ends. And on top of that, I have to put up with interdiction and harassment fire on a daily basis, almost 360 days a year. near that. Interdiction and harassment fire. I never know when a ball is going to come off one of those tees and break a window or hit somebody or whatever. It's totally unpredictable. It's a roll of the dice. Every tee shot off the 6 tees, all 4 of them, is a roll of the dice as to whether I'm going to get hit or not. Because I am certainly in range. I'm in range on every tee box. My yards, my houses are in range of that teed ball. Now, there's an algorithm. You want to talk about algorithm or a dynamic with every ball that's teed up? Someday I'll go into it. But whoever's holding the club that's going to hit that ball determines my risk factor because I'm in range. I'm in range of whoever's holding that club. Whether they're an experienced golfer, a beginner, never held a club before, I'm in range of that golfer on every tee box on the 6th hole. My windows, people who visit me, my solar panels, and it opens for trespassing. Not only are these people, they can't, if they make a mistake and hit it in my yard, they have no respect for the private property. They've been taught over the years that these lots, you have access to any lot. If you see your golf ball or anybody else's golf ball on any one of these lots, you feel free to go get it. The course won't say anything, the police won't say anything. By the time the police get here and you give them a statement, those 2 golfers will disappear into the clouds. They disappear into the clouds. You never see the policeman again, or you never see those golfers that walk between your houses to pick up a golf ball, or some golfer that walked on your patio to pick up his golf ball. Walked right on your patio. Like 40 feet. He walked 40 feet from your property line onto your patio to pick up a golf ball. And because a couple of golfers had hit balls in my yard prior to that day, and stayed out of my yard, on the way to getting his ball on the patio, he picks up, he scours my yard, does a recon of my yard, and if he sees any balls in any yard, he picks them up. He's feel free to do it. This is protocol, tribal knowledge for playing Sundance. It's redneck. But anyway, I'd like to be left alone. I'd like to be left alone by the HOA, because sooner or later I'm either going to find an investigative reporter that wants a dirty story about Buckeye, or I'm going to get a lawyer that understands the implications of what happens here, and that can find a precedent and wants to go pro bono. If I run into a lawyer like that, and my civil rights have been trampled here by Buckeye, and you know the story. But all of this is going to be reworked. Probably all the way to the property line where that is going to be reworked, because I'm going to set up new draining. The last storm we had, I had lakes still. Even though I put in drainage everywhere, I still had lakes on my yard because it came down so hard and so fast for about 20 minutes. Okay? I want to make sure this water gets off my lot. I do not want to hold water. Any water that stays on my lot after a storm, I don't want my lot to be a wick. It wasn't designed to be a wick. It was designed wherever, in North Phoenix or wherever, to drain onto the golf course. It was designed to drain immediately onto the golf course or onto the street. And it doesn't. That's why they lowered it 3 inches, so they would have a place to store water. And between here and that lighthouse, for about 9 years, was a berm that was higher than both patios. So any of the water that came off these houses was landlocked up here between the berm and these 2 houses. And all the water that was between the 2 houses was up against this foundation, the one that was 3 inches low. My patio used to go underwater. Okay, underwater in a storm, like under a lake. They tampered with it. Now, I'm asking you, I'm trying to update you, everybody, like, you got people in the community or your architectural committee men in their car, metering on patrol, looking for things. This is what I'm going to be doing. And if I start getting letters and things like that and fines, I'm just going to go to a lawyer. I'm going to give him all the information. I'll even give him this house. If he promises to go after my civil rights, if he hooks me up with a lawyer that can prosecute the civil rights violation, arresting me and throwing me in jail on a warrant that I never got served on, okay, things like that, and I bring him all these documentation about the house, and we bring him in the documentation about track day, Woody Scouten's letter, all the documents. If somebody wants to take this on, I'm all in, okay? I'll be all in, and I ain't going nowhere. I can't sell this house. Everybody knows I've had a for sale sign in front of this house for 4 years, front and back, and I can't sell it because no realtor will list it. As soon as I go into my little presentation about how this house got sunk into the ground 3 inches, and how my sewer pipes got tampered with, and how my drainage got tampered with, and the fact that track day, we had a letter from the chief engineer saying that track day was out of compliance and nobody did anything for over a year, and then when they did fix it, they screwed it all up. I mean, go to the master documents, the original master document. Everything that's out here now has been cob job, a cob job. They cobbled it together. When they got caught filling in trap day, they cobbled a solution where they could keep the ladies' tee box. But that's my spiel for this morning. I'm done. I may get this out to YouTube. I may try to get this to members of the HOA or past members of the HOA, people that were on the board that decided to have me kicked out of the HOA on the account of combative. No explanation. I'd like an accounting. I'd like an accounting from the HOA, from the lady that wrote the letter to inform me I was kicked out of the HOA. I just would like an accounting as to when, where, who, and who witnessed it. Was I combative with somebody? Where was I combative with somebody? You mean I was determined to get an answer? I was determined to get an answer. I wasn't going to stand for having these simple answers to complicated questions. All right? And when I come in with maps and pictures under my arm, nobody wants to look at them. We're not looking at your maps. You don't bother even don't even bother opening them up. We're not looking at any of your pictures or any of your maps. I've had it said to me. Don't even bother. You're disrupting our meeting. Just you being here disrupts our meeting. Because we can't talk about you behind your back. That's what HOAs are all about. Let me tell you, when an HOA goes into executive session, they're looking at your financial records, they're looking at your health record, they're looking at your civil record, like any criminal violations, what's on his police record, and they are in a lodge meeting. Executive session is a secret lodge meeting where whoever blackballs you, or whatever collective or combination of emotions, feelings, fears about keeping me in the membership comes out, and whatever is said is secret. It's secret. And whoever blackballs you, they just say, and basically that letter that I got from Caroline basically is, I was told to never let you in another meeting. I was told that The board never wants to see you ever in another meeting. So do what you have to do to keep him out of all our meetings. He walked in a surprise. He surprised us. After the meeting start, he walked in. He had a key card to get into the adult center. He came in after the meeting is start. He sat in the back of the room and disturbed the whole meeting. And then when everybody took a break after 2 hours, he was still there when we came back and hoping to have an executive session. Anytime the members, we have a complete roster of members alone with nobody witness, they can immediately at any time, whether it was announced or whatever, they're in executive session. They're all of them alone having a lodge meeting. Now who are we going to blackball? I'm going to try to get this out to everybody in HOA land or even thinking about getting in an HOA.